Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son who's not here today get together and talk to you about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things that we enjoy. If you find that you like this episode, check out the other content that we have down here, Zach, and I would love to have you as a subscriber for our show. So hit that subscribe button. And of course, we'll hope you'll like the episode and leave comments for us down below. Look in the show notes for all the ways that you can interact with Zach and I. I have a quick take for you here today, just a few minutes of thoughts on a great topic, one that I've been hit with recently, and that is talking about the 6 science fiction and fantasy series that I really should have read way sooner than I did. If you haven't read any of these, I would strongly recommend them to you. Let me tell you which ones they are. First off, The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. It falls on this list because I had heard of the Dresden Files years and years and years ago. I even watched the Dresden Files on television when it came out. Again, many years ago. So I knew the books were out there. I knew they were my kind of thing. Urban fantasy, this professional detective who's also a wizard. What was not to like? Bob the Skull. I mean, so many good things in this show, and yet I never picked up the books. Nope, just didn't ever quite get around to it. I was reading fantasy of all kinds. I don't know what stopped me. But finally, just a couple of years ago, I picked up the first book, and it was like crack. I was addicted just like that. Not that I really know. I've not done crack. Don't do crack. Drugs are bad. And wow, I just inhaled. Oh, here we're doing it again. But I sucked down all of the Dresden Files content, the books, the short stories, the novellas, everything that exists. And I can't wait for more. Good thing this series is not done because I want me some more Dresden Files. Second one, very different addition to this category, and that would be The Kingkiller Chronicle by Patrick Rothfuss. 2 books and a novella. And there's a second novella or short story. I'm not sure which it fits into. I haven't read that one yet. But it's a trilogy, really, that doesn't have the last book. It's over a decade, and we still don't have the final book. We may never get the final book. Because that final book hasn't been out there, and it's kind of a controversy in fantasy fiction fandoms, I resisted. I like to be able to finish what I read. I'm not reading this Kingkiller Chronicle till Rothfuss puts out the last book. I was famously on the record for it. Finally, many of you who follow our channel, other content creators, all wore me down. And this past year, I read The Name of the Wind. Oh my goodness, that was so good. So, of course, then I had to read the second book. I read the novella. I enjoyed all of it. And yes, I agree. Even if the third and final book never comes out, these are worth reading. So, I'm a convert now. I should have read it sooner. Next up, due to one of our friends in the fandom, Jake Stone Dog, I heard about The Expanse. Great science fiction series, 9 books, whole bunch of short stories and novellas, an adaptation on Prime Video. I hadn't even heard of this stuff. Nothing. So I can't really be blamed. Once Jake recommended The Expanse to me, I put it high on my TBR, and I got to them fairly soon, but I probably should have put them next up because this was a great series. Now, there's a side benefit for me. By the time I started reading The Expanse, it was done. The final book had just come out. I'm in heaven when I can just plow through an entire series from start to finish. And that was an enjoyable read. The Expanse, one of my favorite science fiction reads of all time. Definitely recommend that one. And again, should have read it way sooner. Would have helped if I'd known it was there. I didn't wait too long from when I heard about it. Next up is an interesting one. This is a reread, and I'm talking about Stephen King's epic fantasy series, The Dark Tower. I'm in the midst of a reread now on book 4, Wizard and Glass. I read this series back shortly after it came out, the first few books, and then the latter books as they were published, and never touched them again. So in some cases, it's over 30 years since I've read these. Why did I wait so long? That's the key. This is a series that deserves to be reread, especially if you read a lot of other Stephen King's works, because there's hints, there's pieces, there's things that you appreciate more deeply if you are well versed in King lore. And I am. I am so appreciating this because I loved it the first time, but a reread is awesome. I should not have waited so long. Number 5, Joe Abercrombie's First Law trilogy. One I didn't hear about until I got into content creating back in late 2020, early 2021. I think it was February when it first came to my attention. And I put it on my list, not at the top, but I'd get to it. Oh, it was worthy. Really enjoyed it. Opened up Grimdark in a whole new way for me. Perhaps the problem with having it on this list now is that it still applies that there's more books. There's 6 more books waiting, and I haven't read them yet. What am I waiting so long for? Well, there's a few other things to read, but First Law, great. If you haven't read the First Law trilogy, as long as you can handle Grimdark, you gotta get there. You gotta go read those books, and you probably should read the rest of the First Law books that are out there. They're coming. But here's my problem. The reason I haven't raised First Law, the other books up faster and higher, is because of what I'm reading right now. Number 6, Malazan, Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson, and also corollary novels by Ian Esselmont. Malazan's blowing my mind. I don't think I've read anything in fantasy so enriched, so deep, so complex, so fulfilling, so much fun. Not in a fun kind of way, although there are moments. It's just thoroughly entertaining. As a deep epic fantasy fan, I'm digging everything I'm reading in these books. And I plan to read them all, so that's pushing a lot of things down. There's over 25 books available, counting novellas too, in the Malazan universe. And they're all way up at the top of my TBR. I'm reading them physically, so I'm certainly getting some other audiobooks in and occasional hardcovers. It's all Kindle reads of Malazan for me. But why did I wait so long? Now, I say that because, again, I didn't hear about Malazan until early 2021 when we got into content creating, and I waited until this year to start. 2 years before I picked them up. Now that I'm reading them, I recognize what a foolish, foolish man I am. They're way too good for me to have put them off this far. And I'm trying to erase that mistake by reading them all now as quickly as I can. That doesn't mean back to back to back, because you got to process these a little bit. So when I say as quickly as I can, that means read a book and then read something else while I continue to ponder the goodness. That's the best I can do. That's how they should be done. The Malazan pause is real, but I should not have waited so long. Those are my 6 series. If you have something else you think, Jim, come on, man, what about this series? Let me know. Put it down in the comments below. If you haven't read any of these 6, I encourage you to take a look. Give them consideration. I do have content here on our channel on the Kingkiller Chronicle, The Expanse, First Law, the Dresden Files, the Malazan books I've read so far. I don't have anything on the Dark Tower yet. That will come after my reread is done. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.